to moderate this morning's plenary session. Before I begin, I just wanted to make a few announcements about Rail Volution. We have a total of 885 registrants for this conference, which I think is a great number. I don't know if Bertus Bills is here from Salt Lake City, but he was the first one to register for this year's Rail Volution. We love that. We have 6 counties represented and 6 countries represented, including the U.S. and 39 states, and a total of 205 cities. The top 5 states represented are, not surprisingly, Massachusetts #1, California, 3 Oregon, 4 Maryland, and 5, a tie between Minnesota and Washington, D.C., and I greatly appreciate being recognized as a state. So that's a good thing. I wanted to invite you to participate in the following today. There are 2 breakout sessions prior to lunch, so after this plenary. At lunchtime, you can pick up your lunch at the trade show and then join one of the many different lunchtime opportunities to talk about topics that are of particular interest to you. There's a great selection. The TOD Marketplace begins at 3 p.m. and the trade show reception at 5 p.m. Special Street Films movie presentation is going to follow the trade show reception. Tomorrow morning there are 2 sets of workshop sessions, and there'll be a very powerful lunchtime plenary that you want to make sure you don't miss. There are still mobile workshops available. The mobile workshop information desk can give you details about individual workshops and space availability. And all of you in your bag got this green form, which is a conference evaluation form. Your feedback is really important and helps to shape future Rail Volution conferences, and I hope that you don't forget to fill that out. In honor of this great attendance and all of you coming here today, we decided we'd give you an extra hour of sleep tonight. And so daylight savings time is ending. We've timed it very carefully so that you could power on through the day and work very hard and get that extra hour of sleep. And sessions tomorrow are going to begin at Eastern Standard Time. Thank you. So, I am really thrilled to have the honor of introducing Congressman Earl Blumenauer. I don't know if all of you know this. There's no better friend to the topics of this conference than the congressman, and he's really the father of this conference and has addressed all of us many times. And we can't wait to hear what he has to say. He's been in public office his entire career, which is something I think is pretty amazing. As a mere child of 23, he was elected to the legislature, where he played key roles in enacting Oregon's landmark land use and transportation planning legislation. Both of those are still national models today. Beginning in 1978, he served first on the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners and then on the Portland City Council. As a council member, he actually also had the role of Commissioner of Public Works, where he championed programs and policies that have established Portland, Oregon as one of the nation's very most livable cities. And this conference is going to get a chance to revisit Portland next year, which I know everyone is very excited about. In 1991, he founded Portland's Regional Rail Summit that, as you know, became the first national Rail Volution conference in 1995. He got elected to Congress in 1996 and began to focus on making the federal government a better partner for local governments' efforts to make their communities safe, healthier, and economically secure. Talk about a man ahead of his time. But this is his time right now, I think. His issues, the ones he's been championing his entire career in Congress and maybe his entire career in public life, are now the fodder of everyday conversation and intense efforts on the part of the federal government. He founded the Congressional Bike Caucus and co-founded the House Livable Communities Task Force. And as I think you know, from 1996 to 2003, he served on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, where he was a strong advocate for federal policies that address transportation alternatives, improving housing choices, supporting sustainable economies, and improving the environment. Today, he continues his focus on livable communities as a member of the powerful Ways and Means Committee and as a co-chair of the Select Committee on Energy Independence and Global Warming. Earl makes it a point to travel to many, many different communities. I know he's probably been to most of the 205 cities that are represented at our conference. So during his tenure in Congress, this has been his monthly practice. And I think I can say without any danger of contradiction that he's become the nation's preeminent spokesperson for livable communities. Please welcome Congressman Earl Blumenauer.
Thank you. Thank you, Harriet, for that kind and generous introduction. I do feel right at home, I must say, as I think about what happened last night at the welcoming party, having little tea bags handed out, you know, for those of us in Congress. We appreciated the gesture to... But I do feel that we are all right at home. Don't you feel sort of like we've caught the bus? It was, 367 days ago when many of us were in San Francisco in anticipation of a new administration turning the page, even notwithstanding the economic collapse that we were witnessing that took some of the oxygen out of the political and policy discourse. It did add an air of urgency. There was an expectation. And then the next week, sort of reality set in. My favorite source for the news is The Onion. And the headline the day after the election, "Black man given worst job in America." Now, can you kind of identify with this? I mean, this is the moment that so many of you have worked for many years. This is the time when the forces have converged to make it clear that the livable community prescription is what we need for the health of our families, for the health of the economy, to make communities work better. But at precisely this moment, it is more complex, and in some ways, this double-edged sword is something that I think we're all sorting out. But I will tell you, I have never been more optimistic and enthusiastic, because that new administration has hit the ground running, and with little things like 2 wars and saving the planet, they have launched an unprecedented effort to integrate activities at the federal level for the things that we care about. And you have seen on display already at this conference some of the all-stars. But that's the tip of the iceberg. The men and women that are being put in these various positions really are our friends. They are people who have worked with us in many cases. And we have an opportunity that is unprecedented to change the nature of that federal relationship with us. The urgency in terms of the issues of the day. Healthcare dominating the headlines. But the work that you know how to do with livable communities is the cheapest, most cost-effective way to improve the health of our families. Burning calories instead of fossil fuels, making it easier for people to walk, play, even adjust the diet. This is something that America has waited for. We have problems with the economy, but the activities that you are working on and have planned for the future are magnets for family wage jobs. And even though climate change is like a shadow that overhangs all of our policy deliberations, the work that you are doing is the quickest way for us to make progress in the race to save the planet. And in the course of the last year, there has been a focus put on another item that we're going to have to put consciously on our agenda, and that is the stability and the long-term fiscal health of our country. It's going to require a very subtle but important shift in our whole thinking about what the economy represents. And you're going to hear from some people today. I see my friend Jonathan Rose had all sorts of ideas about how to make that happen. The third quarter economic growth that turned up a little bit. Welcome news. But sadly, most of it was just simply attributable to the cash for clunkers and the first-time homeowner credit, most of which was going to happen next year anyway. It just kind of accelerated that. The fundamental concept underpinning our economy, the need to rebalance, having less emphasis on the financial sector and more on the part of our economy that actually creates tangible items and real wealth. We are still in Washington, D.C., throwing too much money and attention towards enabling a model that led us to the very edge of economic disaster. Creative ways of collecting fees, hollowing out companies, and frankly, cheating people. There's a role for finance, but I'm hopeful that more of it is to facilitate the real economy and real people to get access to capital to create value. It's fun watching some of the elements come together. One of my favorite happens to be the streetcar. You know, this was part of our initiative in Portland to try and reintroduce the modern streetcar. And now we have an administration that in less than 4 months, with all the other things going on, could figure out how to implement our small starts legislation that the outgoing administration couldn't figure out how to do in 4 years. It isn't just an opportunity to extend Portland's streetcar line into a system, but it is an example of a federal program that can be available to all of the 80 communities that are interested in moving forward with a streetcar. And because we have been thinking creatively about this federal partnership, we actually have constructed the first American-built streetcar in the United States in 58 years. This is an example of a template of what we can do with livable communities. Tying these pieces together, creating value to strengthen the fabric of what we want for our neighborhoods, for our central cities. We could have the same conversation about bicycles, about hyper-green construction. The point is, you know what so many of these elements are. That research is clear, and the need has never been more important. Even the philosophy of fixing it first for our infrastructure investments, strengthening our inner cities, our roadways, our bridges, our transit systems before we hopscotch out into greenfields, has the potential of being revolutionary. And slowly but surely, that philosophy is taking hold. I will tell you that one of the things that I am concerned about is that we are in danger of not thinking big enough, not being bold enough. We've got, for the better part of a decade, we were trying to pull the foot of the ideologues off the Amtrak air hose, right? Right? They're trying to zero it out. A couple of years ago, we were celebrating the fact that we did pry the foot off, and we actually got an extra $550 million in the pipeline. And we were, I think, given the forces that we were struggling against, that was okay to be excited about. With the administration coming in with $8 billion off the top in the economic recovery package and another $4 billion of commitment, I mean, this is real money compared to what we've been putting up with, and the opportunity to make a significant difference in critical corridors across the country to leverage some of the investment that is already taking place by local and state officials is exciting. But this $12 billion is about what China is going to invest in the next 3 months. I mean, the Chinese sort of have an idea of what it's like to bet on a low-carbon future, on infrastructure, things like high-speed rail, not just higher-speed rail. We've got an opportunity right now in Washington, D.C., with your help, to scale up this vision thing. We've got the chair of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, Jim Obastar, who's been living for this minute, right? You've heard his speeches. Jim, 40 years, and he's moving forward with an ambitious bill. My friend and colleague Peter DeFazio, the subcommittee chair, is raring to go. They've been having hearings. We're making progress, but candidly, they need your help to make the vision what it should be. I mean, the bill will be the best bill in the history for bicycles, for instance. But it doesn't yet include safe routes to school for high schools, which seems, these are the sorts of things that we can come forward to help them scale it up. Because by congressional standards, it is a quantum leap. But compared to what you know we need, we're not quite there yet. But it's still being baked. It's not too late for us to step forward in doing that. In addition to the vision, however, we need to meet the administration halfway to squeeze more value out of the dollars that we are spending. We've had some great discussions with Secretary LaHood, with Secretary Donovan. These are people who kind of get it, but we're talking about a culture change for the federal government of over 50 years. We need to work with them to right-size the federal partnership. Talk about taking a foot off the air hose. When some of you started the rail projects or some of the innovative housing, they were experiments. They were one-off. There wasn't an established model. That's not the case now. So I think we can work with them to redesign a federal partnership that is faster, leaner, more nimble, that is performance-driven. I bleed green. I believe in citizen participation. That's what Rail Volution is all about. But we ought to be able to accelerate that citizen participation, the environmental protections, the appropriate federal overlay, to right-size it, make it performance-driven, and give you the time and flexibility to do the job better and faster. I think this administration, unlike any in history, is prepared to work with us to make it happen. But it's going to take our providing the platform to get there. Even if we get the vision right and we squeeze maximum value out of every dollar, we still don't have enough dollars. You know that. I know that. We are under-investing in infrastructure, whether it is cleaning up Superfund sites, whether it's investing in transit, in water infrastructure. We are not close to matching the needs now and into the future for our current infrastructure demands, to say nothing about the challenges that are inherent in a carbon-stressed, water-short, energy-short world where we're likely to have more extreme weather events. It's going to require significant additional investment. And you may have noticed that's modestly controversial. in Washington, D.C. There is a reason we haven't raised the gas tax since 1993. And the tea bags, and the philosophy on the part of people who've been in charge for most of the last 12 years that there's no problem in America so great that it can't be solved with a tax cut. We have to solve the revenue problem as well. Part of that is going to be investing more in the reauthorization process. We are $220 billion short of what the current revenue stream is and what Chairman Obastar, Chairman DeFazio, Speaker Pelosi want to give the American public over the next 6 years. In a rational world, we would probably be talking about raising the gas tax and indexing it for inflation. It's still not impossible, but it's going to be very difficult. And certainly nobody is talking about raising taxes on American families while we still have unemployment going down, employment going down, and we're talking about a jobless recovery for a year or two. But there ought to be ways that we can work together to front-load the reauthorization. I am shopping a proposal right now to capitalize an infrastructure bank that's first responsibility would be to front-load those first 2 years of the reauthorization. Look at areas of a forward revenue stream that could include everything from an increase in fuel, a tax, a fee on oil, stock transactions. You know, I'm agnostic. We've got 7 items on a list that we're circulating. The main thing is to make sure that we, by the spring, are committed to a revenue stream that will enable us to not miss another construction cycle and give you the certitude you need for the next 6 years to be on and about this. Also, candidly, there are other areas that we hope that you will consider. A water infrastructure trust fund that would provide $60 billion over that same period of time. The reimposition of the Superfund tax. We've got some ideas. We're slowly getting a little bit of traction with the stakeholder groups, but it's not quite there yet with the people on Capitol Hill. And frankly, the administration is gun shy, and I don't blame them. They got Zippo support for the economic recovery package on the other side of the aisle. I would hate to think what my state legislature would look like if we hadn't got the $6 billion. I mean, it would be like ferrets in a phone booth down there. They'd still be fighting, snarling. This made a big, big difference. No Republican support. I just tell you that we need to make this a bipartisan initiative, and I think it starts by getting local officials, Republican and Democrat, getting the business community, organized labor, environmentalists. You know who they are, because many of them are here on display right now, and many of you have made it happen in your communities. And some of them are unlikely communities, right? John English and Salt Lake. I mean, you guys are just manufacturing money and run amok. God love you. $20 billion in Phoenix, Los Angeles? I mean, this can be done. But we're going to need to prepare the field to do it. Next year, we are poised to have, I think, a spectacular rail volution in Portland. We've got some stuff to show you, even those of you who are tired of hearing about Portland. I think we're going to have fun. But maybe with your help, we can have a mini rail volution in every one of your communities between now and then. Invite your members of Congress in. Lay the foundation for the congressional leadership, for the administration, for what we need to do for the future. Vision, value, a little bit of money. We know the prescription for livable communities and making those families safer, healthier, and more economically secure. Thank you very much.